Yo, what if I told you that two American fighter pilots got captured by the Nazis, and instead of rotting in some German POW camp for the rest of the war, they literally squeezed into a single-seat fighter jet and flew it back home, while sitting on top of each other like it was nothing? Yeah, you heard that right. Not a movie, not a video game, not some Hollywood dramatization. This actually happened. This is real history, and honestly, it's the most badass, absolutely bonkers, completely insane story you're going to hear all week. Stick around, because this tale is straight up legendary, and by the end of this video, you're going to be mind blown. This is the kind of escape story that makes you question everything you thought you knew about World War II.
Listen, during World War II, American pilots were doing some seriously dangerous stuff out there. They were flying combat missions over enemy territory day after day, getting shot down left and right, dealing with enemy fighters, anti-aircraft fire, mechanical failures, you name it, they faced it. And if they were lucky enough to survive the crash landing, if they managed to eject and parachute down safely, they'd usually end up as prisoners of war. Thousands of them did. And that's exactly what happened to these two guys. But here's where this story goes from, wow, that really sucks, to what in the actual? Because these dudes weren't about to spend years languishing in some Nazi prison camp. Nah, they had other plans, way crazier, way more dangerous, absolutely suicidal plans. So buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into the absolutely insane true story of how two American pilots pulled off what might be the most impossible, gravity-defying escape during World War II. This is the kind of stuff that makes you go, there's no way that's real, bro. There's just no way. But spoiler alert, it totally is, and it's even more incredible than you think. Let's rewind back to 1944. The war in Europe is heating up big time. American pilots are flying P-51 Mustangs, absolute beasts of aircraft, by the way, seriously top-tier fighter planes, on dangerous escort missions deep over Germany and German-occupied territory. These pilots knew the risks. They knew every single time they took off from their base, there was a legitimate, very real chance that they weren't coming back. They might get shot down. Their plane might malfunction. They might run out of fuel over enemy territory. They might get caught. But that's what you do when your country needs you, right? You strap in, you fly out, and you give it everything you got. Our two main guys in this story, they were solid pilots, experienced dudes, the kind of guys who'd already flown multiple dangerous missions and actually lived to tell about it. They had skills, they had nerve, they had the kind of experience that came from doing this job when it was literally life or death every single day. But here's the thing about World War II. No matter how good you are, no matter how experienced you are, luck is everything. And on what started as just another routine escort mission, everything went sideways real quick. Their plane got hit. We're talking seriously hit, like we're going down and we can't stop it bad. Engine damage, fire, severe structural damage. They couldn't keep that bird in the air anymore. They had maybe seconds to react, and they made the split-second decision to bail out. They ejected, they parachuted down. But here's the massive kicker, the thing that changed everything. They landed right in Nazi-controlled territory, and within hours, within just a few short hours, German soldiers found them. They were captured. Game over, right? Or so everyone thought. Now, being captured during World War II wasn't exactly a vacation. It wasn't fun. You'd be interrogated by German military intelligence, processed, documented, and then shipped off to a POW camp, probably for the duration of the entire war. These pilots knew what was coming. They'd heard all the stories from other captured pilots. Months, years, locked up in barbed wire compounds, terrible food, crowded barracks, watching the war continue without you on the outside. Some guys lost hope right there and then. They figured it was over. They'd spend the rest of the war as prisoners. But not these two. Nah, these guys were already cooking up something absolutely wild in their heads. They got thrown into a German holding facility while being processed, and while they were there, while guards were watching them, but not super carefully, they started scoping things out. They were looking. Where could they go? What escape routes existed? What was available to them? And then they spotted it, and this is where things get crazy. Sitting on the airfield not too far from where they were being held, completely visible from their holding area, was a German Focke-Wulf 190 fighter plane, an enemy aircraft, top-tier German military hardware, fully fueled, fully operational, just sitting there, like it was waiting for them. Now, any completely sane person would look at that situation and say, "Nah, man, that's impossible. That's absolutely crazy. We're surrounded by German guards. We're in the middle of an enemy airfield. There's no way we make it 50 feet before getting caught or shot by machine gun fire." But these two pilots, they looked at that plane and they didn't see impossibility. They saw possibility. They saw freedom. They saw a legitimate shot at actually getting home to America, and that changed everything. Here's where it gets absolutely bonkers. Here's where this story crosses from desperate escape attempt into these guys are actually insane territory. These pilots came up with a plan so crazy, so desperate, so completely off the wall and ridiculous that it somehow might actually work. And their crazy plan was this: they were going to steal that German plane, both of them, in one single plane at the exact same time. Now you got to understand something about aircraft design. A Focke-Wulf 190 is a single-seat fighter. It's engineered and designed for one pilot. That's it. One cockpit, one seat, one control stick. Everything about it is built for a solo operator. There is literally no room for two people. It's like a really expensive, really fast, really deadly sports car, designed for one person only. But these guys were like, you know what? Forget the rules. Forget aircraft design. Forget common sense. We're both getting on that plane, and we're both getting out of here together. They started planning meticulously. They watched guard rotations. They noted exactly when the airfield would be least crowded. They figured out the exact window of opportunity, probably just minutes long, when they'd have the best chance of actually making it to that plane without getting caught, interrogated, or shot by machine gun fire. It was risky, it was stupid, it was absolutely insane. It probably shouldn't have worked, but it was also their only shot, their only real chance at freedom.
One night, and we're talking a specific night that they'd picked after days of surveillance and planning, they made their move. And dude, the timing had to be absolutely perfect, precision timing. Any guards looking their way, any patrol showing up even 5 minutes early, any alarm getting triggered, any German soldier happening to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the whole thing falls apart. They'd either get shot on sight, trying to run across an airfield toward an enemy plane, or they'd be thrown back in the brig to rot for the rest of the war. Probably worse. They sprinted. Full-on sprint. I'm talking absolutely booking it across that airfield, just moving as fast as their legs could carry them, trying to stay in shadows, trying to avoid spotlights. Their hearts are pounding. Adrenaline is surging through their bodies. They reached the plane. One pilot jumped into the cockpit. That was the easy part. The other one, he literally climbed on top of him. That's right, one sitting in the actual seat, the other one sitting literally on his lap. Both of them crammed, squeezed, compressed into a space designed for a single human being. We're talking zero personal space. Uncomfortable doesn't even begin to cover it. The pilot in the seat fired up those massive engines. The Focke-Wulf 190's engines roared to life, real loud, absolutely deafening, the kind of noise that carries across an entire airfield, which meant every single person on that base probably heard it. But at that point, they were committed. No going back now. The point of no return had been crossed. Rounds started flying. German guards opened fire. Bullets were literally whizzing past this plane, hitting the fuselage, sparking off the metal, tracer rounds lighting up the night sky. But this pilot had skills. He had experience. He pushed the throttle forward, and that German fighter jet started moving down the runway. Faster, faster, gaining speed. Come on, baby, come on. The runway was flying under the wheels, bullets still coming. And then, liftoff. That Focke-Wulf 190 pulled up into the night sky with 2 American pilots crammed into a single-seat cockpit, already taking fire from the ground, already committed to this absolutely insane escape. Now here's the thing. They couldn't exactly just fly straight back to America or directly to Allied territory. That would be way too easy.
They were in a German fighter plane, flying over German territory, and the entire German Luftwaffe was potentially looking for them. Searchlights, radar stations, enemy fighters, everything. So they had to be smart about this. They had to fly low, I mean really low, dangerously low, hedge-hopping over terrain to avoid radar detection. They had to stay off radar as much as possible. They had to navigate toward Allied territory carefully, quietly, without drawing attention. One pilot controlling the aircraft with precision, the other one basically just holding on for dear life. Can you imagine that? Sitting on your buddy's lap at thousands of feet in a plane that's not designed for two people? The discomfort alone would be absolutely insane. The turbulence, the G-forces, the noise, everything about it would be terrible. But these dudes didn't care. They were getting home. That was all that mattered. The fuel gauge was ticking down. That's always a concern when you're in a stolen enemy aircraft flying through hostile territory. You don't know exactly how much gas is actually in the tank. You're just hoping, praying actually to whatever higher power you believe in, that it's enough to get you where you need to go before you run dry and get forced down in the middle of nowhere. But then they spotted it. Allied territory. They were approaching friendly airspace. They could see it down below. American and British forces, their people, their guys. They were actually gonna make it. Against all odds, it was actually happening. Now here's where things could have gone really, really bad, and I mean catastrophically bad, because when you're flying a German fighter plane into Allied territory, the Allied forces down there don't exactly know your good intentions, right? They see a Focke-Wulf 190 coming in, their first instinct is going to be to shoot it down. Protocol, it's an enemy plane. Standard procedure says take it out. Shoot first, ask questions later. But our pilots were smart. They radioed ahead. They explained the situation. They told the truth. Hey, listen, we're Americans. We're American pilots. We stole this German plane. We escaped from capture. Don't shoot us, please. And somehow, maybe it was the shock value of the story, maybe it was luck, maybe the ground commander just believed them. The Allied forces didn't immediately blow them out of the sky. They brought that German fighter down. Both pilots climbed out, probably shaking like crazy, probably disoriented, probably feeling like they'd just lived through the craziest, most intense experience of their entire lives, because they had. They literally pulled off the impossible. So what happened to these absolute legends? Well, they lived. They survived. They got debriefed by military intelligence. They became something of celebrities within military circles. The story spread around like wildfire. Did you hear about those two pilots who stole a German fighter and flew it home with both of them in the cockpit? It became legend. It became myth. People weren't even sure if it was real or just an urban legend told by soldiers. The German Focke-Wulf 190 they stole, it became a prize for the Allies. American and British military scientists studied it, tested it, learned from it, reverse-engineered parts of it. Turns out, getting a real German fighter plane in perfect operational condition was worth its weight in gold for military intelligence and aircraft development. But more importantly, those two pilots got their lives back. They got to go home. They got to see their families again. They got to tell their story to anyone who would listen. And that story, it became one of the most incredible, inspiring tales of human ingenuity, desperation, and pure crazy determination to come out of World War II. So there you have it, folks. 2 American pilots, 1 German fighter plane, 0 seats for both of them, 1 absolutely insane escape that actually worked against all odds. This is the kind of story that reminds you that sometimes, when everything is completely stacked against you, when the odds are completely and utterly impossible, sometimes the craziest plan, the most desperate Hail Mary, is the only plan that'll actually work. These dudes took "we're getting out of here" to a whole new level. They didn't just escape like regular POWs, they escaped in legendary style. They stove an enemy aircraft, top-tier German military hardware, and flew it home together. And they did it while squeezed into a space that was never meant for 2 people. If you're watching this thinking, that's seriously the most insane thing I've ever heard, congratulations, you get it, because it absolutely is. This is real history. This is real courage. This is real American determination right there. This is what happens when you refuse to give up, when you refuse to accept defeat, when you see an opportunity and you take it no matter how crazy it seems.
So here's the real question for you. If you were in that situation, would you have the guts to even try? Would you be brave enough to attempt something so completely insane? Because these guys, they didn't just try, they succeeded. And that's exactly why we're still talking about them today, decades later. Drop a comment below and let me know, what's the craziest historical story you've ever heard? And if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button because we got more wild, incredible, mind-blowing historical content coming your way. Thanks for watching and peace out.